it, and you're asking like, what do we do about?
Is you sign a contract with someone.
So real quick, before you did that, did you?
More than 30 years. I got my real estate license in the
And your origin story.
Is that he made an age joke the last time we were. I'm gonna use that Kuka.
You know, I'm a little more strict with what I'm looking at.
Hey everyone, how's it going out there in YouTube land and Facebook group for Metro Detroit Off-Market Real Estate Group? So today we have a great guest. Now, this is kind of odd. Yeah, everybody, you know, I bring on people that have a lot of experience with in the real estate field, things like that. But actually, my neighbor Ron had some real estate questions, and they were around like Section 8, some, you know, things that how he can grow his money. And I figured, you know what, let's bring him on the podcast, let him ask his questions, because guess what? Not only him, but all you other people out there that are just starting out might have the exact same questions and want to know the answers. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on, I'm going to bring on my neighbor, Ron. Ron, how you doing today?
Good, real good.
Awesome. So first off, before we get into your questions, tell me a little bit about, I know about you because you're my neighbor and, you know, we talk all the time. So, but tell everybody else about who you are, kind of what your background is, so that, you know, they can get a little bit of understanding, and what type of investing have you done in the past?
Okay, sure. First of all, my education, I was a Michigan State grad in finance, and then I went on to get an MBA in finance. I joined Chrysler, about 40 years ago, and kind of had three separate careers in Chrysler. My first one was, of course, in finance. I went through all the financial branches there for about a dozen years, and then I jumped into product planning and strategic planning for another dozen years, and that was a lot of fun. And then finally, I ended up in marketing for my last dozen years, which was really exciting. But I decided to retire a couple years ago, and just at home now and managing my money. And with the crazy economy that we have, we always have to look for opportunities out there. And in some of our discussions in the backyard, you know, you were telling me that you were, you know, sometimes involved in these real estate transactions, termed like Section 8, you know, to help out some lower income people. And I actually, when I was younger in my 20s, I owned a condo that I rented out to people, not low income, not Section 8 or anything like that. And it was some good experiences, some bad experiences. But I decided to step away from that, you know, when my career started heating up more. But now that I have more time on my hands, I'm wondering if there is an opportunity out there, especially with this Section 8 opportunity, because it sounds so interesting. I wasn't familiar with it before you started telling me about it.
Yeah, most definitely. So that's the thing with, you know, they have low income, and Section 8, they have a bad rap. It's just the type of tenant that you get. So what Section 8 is it's a government-run program where they will pay for a portion of the renter's rent based on their income. So the more income they make, the less Section 8 pays. Okay, it goes by their income. And then at a certain point that if they make too much, they won't qualify for Section 8 and they have to do just regular rentals. But Section 8 is to help subsidize the rental income that they can't pay. For instance, somebody living on a McDonald's salary, you know, working at McDonald's every day, you know, things like that, minimum wage, or somebody with, you know, a few kids that is working a lower income job, you know. So, you know,
so
that's kind of where Section.
Is this a state-run program or federal?
No. So I believe Section 8 is state ran.
State ran. Okay.
And it's actually, depending on the city, it's actually, there's different cities that have their different places. Like, for instance, Detroit has its own office. You know, as soon as you go on the suburbs, and they have their own office in the suburbs and things like that.
Mhm.
So I think it's each county has its own area.
So I would imagine they would have their own set of rules too, as to who would qualify, how much you would get. So depending on what kind of a rental property you pick up, you would have to go to that county office to say, what are your rules subject to Section 8?
So I would say yes, but the Section 8 as a whole pretty much have the same rules. It's just where the income comes from, what county it comes from. That's all. So
Okay.
The Section 8 itself, so I think they have a big standard of rules, and I could be wrong as far as whether it's federal or state. But Section 8 as a whole, you know, they have their own rules. Okay, yeah, there you go. It is a federal. It's a federal done program that is operated in Michigan. So it's operated by MISTA. So Tara, thank you for that comment. I appreciate that. So so Tara Lynn from our Facebook group answered that question. And so it's ran by the state. It's a federally done program, according to Tara there, which makes sense because Section 8 is everywhere. Okay, it's not just in Michigan.
So is it an open-ended program in that, hey, you only can be on Section 8 for 5 years, or can you be on it for 25 years?
You can be on it as long as your income qualifies. And I think you might have to requalify every year. Okay.
Oh, really? Okay. So
you might have to show your income every year that you do have to watch. You have to show your income every year as a Section 8 person. And it may get to a point where that Section 8 tenant pays more and more in rent, and Section 8 pays less and less. Okay. The key thing is this: to get good properties with Section 8. The good thing about Section 8 is that whatever portion that is, it's called a voucher. They get a voucher. Say we got a voucher for $1,500. Okay. Okay. So Michelle is saying that, or Michael is saying you have to report changes in your income into your housing immediately. Okay. So hopefully they keep an eye on that, but sometimes they don't. So, but if you don't follow their rules, you can easily get kicked out. For instance, if they have an eviction on the record, if they get evicted while they're on Section 8, they get kicked out of the program. They can't rejoin. Okay. So them as a tenant are incentivized not to really break the rules and not to be a bad tenant. But as a landlord, you got to make sure everything is up to snuff, because you have to have a yearly inspection.
Okay, an annual inspection, which I would imagine you'd pay for and everything else. So at the start, let's say I find a small house looking to purchase, get with a lending agency, and do you have to disclose, hey, I might be doing Section 8 work with this particular house? Or is it none of the financial institutions' business?
No, the only thing that they have to know is whether it's going to be an investment property, or basically whether it's going to be a homestead or non-homestead, whether you're going to be using it as an investment or whether you're going to be living there. That changes the terms.
Okay. I was just going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's an investment property, a little bit more risk involved, therefore a higher mortgage rate.
So depending on the mortgage you get, or whether it's going in your name or an LLC, that determines that. You can get multiple properties in your personal name. If it's an investment, more than likely they're going to want 20% down, 20 to 25% down. And versus if it's a personal residence, you can do, conventional 3 to 5%, So
is one more advantageous? Is one more advantageous than the other? Doing an LLC or just taking it on yourself?
Getting the rates with them, but then you are opening yourself up for lawsuits with the rental. So if you are planning on using as a rental, I always do recommend purchasing with an LLC. Or if you purchase it with your name, you can transfer it to an LLC later on. Okay. So keep that in mind. But it is best for liability reasons to purchase it with an LLC.
Yeah. Protect yourself. So if you do an LLC and you have income, I would imagine there's maybe unique tax filings. Do you know if there's any?
So you treat it just like a regular business. Income coming in, which is your rental income going out for any maintenance issues that you had, taxes that you paid, things like that. Anything that you spent on that property. Also, one thing that you do get as an investment property is you do get what's called I'm trying to remember the right term for depreciation on the property.
Okay.
So you take the purchase price. Say you purchased it for $100 grand. Okay. All right. Let me bring up the calculator here. Say you purchased it for $100 grand. Okay. And you're going to divide that by 27.5. And so what you can do is at $100,000 property, if you purchase it for $100,000, now per year, you can write off $3,636.36 every year is automatically written off just because you own the property for the next 27 and a half years.
What if you take out like a 15-year mortgage? Can you depreciate it over a 15-year life?
The depreciation is just a tax write-off, and that's the name. It has nothing to do with the mortgage. You can buy it cash and you get the same depreciation. Okay.
Okay, but it has to be the 27 and a half years.
Yeah. So the reason why they do that is because that's the tax code. The IRS says in 27 and a half years, your property will be worth zero. Now we all know it's not. Okay. But that's the tax code. Okay. And now what you can do is say, a lot of people, what they do is they purchase it with a loan. Okay. Say your loan payment is $1,000 a month. We're just going to use these for round numbers. Okay.
Okay.
Your loan payment is $1,000 a month. Okay. After, that's your PITI, your property insurance, taxes, everything. Also, then you have to account for vacancy, capital expenditure, like say all of that adds up to about another $200 a month. Okay. Just for round numbers. So now you're all in at $1,200 a month and you can rent it for $1,500 a month. Okay. So now you're cash flowing $300 a month. Okay. At the end of the day, you're putting $300 a month in your check, but not only that, your tenant is paying down your mortgage on the property. So you're not only doing that, but you're gaining equity. Okay. So if you did a 15-year loan on that, well, guess what you can do in the next 15 years? You can refinance and get money out, go buy the next one. And guess who's paying down the mortgage? Your tenant.
Okay.
As long as you do the numbers right.
Okay. So if you're managing this as like an independent business, if you want to stop doing Section 8s after a few years or whatever, you can just stop. There's no complications with taxes or anything else. So you can get in and out of Section 8 renters at any time.
Yeah, the biggest thing with Section 8 is you just have to get you have to be able to accept them, but you have to pass their inspections, which if you pass the city inspections, maybe a property manager will help more explain that a little bit better. But you should be able, if you pass the city inspections, you should be able to pass the Section 8 inspections, no problem. So also, Anik, I appreciate the comment here. You can accelerate some of the depreciation costs with cost segregation as well. So I think what he's referring to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anik, is the first 7 years, you can take that depreciation for the first 7 years up front in the first year if you want. You just now can't take them. You know, you can bundle it. Yeah, you can bundle that all together. But if you don't need to, you don't need to. You know, so it really just depends on your certain circumstances. So what happens is a lot of people, they'll do that, and then next year they're going to buy 2 or 3 more properties, and they're going to do the same thing on those. You know, so it all depends on your situation, and you know, your tax guy will be able to explain all that too. So,
okay, so screening for Section 8 clients, do you get like a list of people from the county office, and you can kind of look at backgrounds or whatever, and then contact them and find out who you want to rent to? Or is there a priority given to single parents with children? Or
yeah, so Anik, I just want to Section 8 inspections. Anik is actually an investor who does Section 8. And so he says that they are actually easier to pass than some city inspections. So you really don't have any issue. Basically, if you have all it is a tenant coming to you and saying, hey, I got a Section 8 voucher. Do you take Section 8? Some people don't, and because they have a bad stigma about it, but you just vet the tenant just like any other tenant. So make sure, you know, you can do a credit check on them. You can make sure that they don't have evictions, things like that, which if they're coming back with a Section 8, they shouldn't have evictions, but you can still check all their references. You still have to vet a tenant just like you normally would. Okay.
So, what about the duration of the lease? Is there any mandatory Section 8, you know, saying, hey, you have to keep them at least 6 months or at least a year? Or is it whatever you negotiate with the renter?
It's usually at least a year.
At least a year.
At least a year. Now, keep in mind, the longer term you have, the better. Okay.
Why is that?
Because now that's guaranteed income. But if you think the rents are going to go up, say next year, then have only a 1-year lease so you can raise the rents on one of the lease renewals. Okay. The downfall with Section 8 is if you want to raise the rent next year, now you have to put in a request to Section 8 to be able to raise the current Section 8 tenant's rent.
Okay.
If you're sticking with the same tenant, that is. Okay. The Section 8, they have to approve the increase in rent. Okay.
So
and they go by the rentals in the area. So keep that in mind. If you're trying to go above the rentals in the area, it's not going to get approved. Now, all of a sudden, if they came out with the new data after the past year and those rentals went up, then you can do that.
Okay. What if you just improved your property? You know, maybe the surrounding community didn't increase it, but you added air conditioning, for instance, or added a garage or something. Would there be an opportunity there to go back and say, hey, I've improved the property, the value of the property is higher, therefore Section 8 should be a little higher? At
the end of the lease, that is an argument you can make. But at the same point, your Section 8s are usually the highest you're going to get anyways. So if they come out every year, with the rental rates for the areas.
Okay.
And if they increase, then you have no problem, but they're not gonna, basically that's your ceiling is what they put out.
Okay. But then the
So-
renter could always come back and say, I want to stay in the property. I'll pay the extra $100 that you're looking for or something.
They can.
Okay.
They can.
And Section 8 doesn't care because the renter is going to be, forking over the additional dollars.
I mean, I can't say whether that will actually go through or not.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I think you have to still get it approved by Section 8 in order for them to be obligated to pay.
Okay. So let's say you do sign up a tenant with a Section 8. Would the renter still receive the voucher or the landlord?
So all they do is they receive a piece of paper with, it's called a voucher. Okay. And that is what you're allowed. That's what they're allowed to have. Okay. And just real quick, Anik was saying there are limits to what the tenant is allowed to pay out of pocket.
Oh,
so that's the reason. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you, Anik, for that. There are limits to, because they go by the income, they go by a percentage of their income.
Oh, okay.
That's the reason why. But so that voucher is, I believe, the max that they can pay. Okay. And so it's based on it. Here you go. It's based on the tenant's income and what monthly housing expenses they have. So if they have more monthly housing expenses, things like that. Mm-hmm. So in other words, somebody with more kids is going to have more expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm sure there's a formula for that.
Yes. I don't have that formula, but we leave that up to Section 8. We don't care about that. All we care about is the voucher that they give us. Okay. And that voucher is, it says the tenant pays this much, Section 8 pays this much. Okay. Now, when you do that, when you first start off, if you want to do Section 8, my recommendation is talk with a property manager, that is used to doing Section 8. That has done Section 8, has experience. You have to vet your property manager just like you vet your tenants. Because there are a lot of property managers out there, unless you're going to grind and do it yourself, Sure. In my opinion, I like developing systems where I'm as hands-off as possible. Like I may start off with it, but I want to develop a system where I can back off. So that system would be having a property manager do it, but I got to make sure I have trust in that property manager as well. So I got to vet that property manager just as much as I vet that tenant. Okay.
So let's say you find somebody you want to rent to. Can you require a deposit from a Section 8 person? Or is there some kind of rules that say, no, you can't require a deposit?
So, there's a security deposit. So that's a standard. Yeah.
Okay. You would still get low income might not have, a 1 month rent.
Now, as far as the security deposit, I'm not sure how that works. Maybe Section 8 covers some of that. Anik, maybe if you can comment in there because you've had that experience, that'd be great. Just because I haven't, I only know the theories on it. So, but Section 8 should help with that as well. So, but yeah.
Okay. And kind of a follow-up question to that, would the renter be putting like the utilities in their name, or would you be responsible for it in a Section 8 situation?
No. So the utilities all go in the tenant's name. Okay. So Anik says the tenant is usually responsible for a security deposit. Okay. So the tenant puts all the utilities usually you have in your lease, you have to require that. Okay.
Okay.
That now water bill, because it kind of stays with the property. You can require the tenant to put the water in their name and do all of that. Sometimes, landlords don't like to do that. What they do is they just do a chargeback of what the water bill actually is. You can't legally, you cannot make money off of the water bill. So literally the only thing you can do is you just charge exactly what that water bill is.
Okay.
Okay. So, so there's a few different options with that. You can require, like I said, you can require the tenant to have it in their name, and you require it in the lease. But I believe you have to when you renew that lease, you have to require that as well. And there's an extra document that has to be signed. So,
Okay. So what happens in a situation where the tenant really likes the property and wants to get on a kind of a rent to own situation? Does Section 8 end at that time, or can that person continue to use Section 8 money and actually be buying the property? You know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, I know what you're referring to. You're entering into what's called either a land contract or a lease option. So a lease, and they're two different things. A land contract, they actually own the property. They're buying the property. They're just at the end, and thank you, Michael, for kind of getting around it. He says no. So, and that's kind of what I was getting around to. So at the end, they're buying the property. And so you can't have somebody else pay for that. So essentially now you're going from being a renter to an owner. And even the same thing with a lease option. Now you're renting it, you're still renting it, but you have the option to purchase it for a fixed price at the end. Okay. So you can have what's called a lease option for the next 2 years. And at the end of that 2 years, it's a fixed price that you came up with in the beginning. There's no, okay, we're going to come up to market rents or market prices. No. If market prices went above what you said, doesn't matter. They can purchase it for that price. Now they can choose at that option not to exercise that right. And with a lease option, none of those, the rent actually goes towards the purchase price.
Okay.
So
what about the termination of a lease? Let's say somebody is hey, I got a better job down in Ohio. I'm leaving. What would happen with a Section 8 after, let's say, 9 months out of a 1-year lease? Would Section 8 help still pay for the last 3 months? Do you know? It's kind of a unique situation. But.
Yeah. So in your lease, you have a breaking clause, and usually it's everyone's different on what they put. But on my experience, it's okay, you can pay up to the end of the lease or up until I put somebody in the property.
Okay.
Okay. So now, will Section 8 help pay for that? If they're trying to get Section 8 where they're going to, probably not. So, but I can't say that for sure because I'm not an expert at that. So that's just kind of a question mark, but keep that in mind that your lease is, though, as long as you're not breaking any laws in your lease, okay, you have to go by what your lease says. Okay. So you have to write the lease the way you can. And that's where having a lawyer go over your lease, a real estate lawyer, go over your lease helps.
Okay. So is now kind of looking from an overview, do you see Section 8 rentals increasing, across Michigan or nationwide? Is it becoming more prevalent? Do you know?
Say that again. Sorry.
just wondering if there are more and more Section 8s, coming to fruition. Everybody's having, tougher times now, pending recession. Do you see any kind of trend lines as more people are renting and using Section 8s?
I can't say that I do or not because I don't have the numbers on those.
Okay. Just
But
wondering if it's like more people will identify what a Section 8 is or apply for a Section 8, making a greater demand for maybe a limited supply.
there's always going to be government assistance. Think of it like the SNAP program, which is like food stamps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's just another program just like that. You still have to qualify. You still have to do all of that. You go through the rigorous process, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing for landlord is that you have to screen your tenants in the beginning. The hardest thing is when something happens and you have to evict them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be honest. That's the hardest thing because they can be what's called a professional tenant. Or what's a professional, or what they can do is they're just gone on hard times. And sometimes it's just easier instead of evicting them, just working with them, things like that. So, Michael Morez was saying more places are now accepting Section 8 that previously were not. Okay. And so with that, he was also saying that, Section 8 is strictly for renters. Okay. So when we were talking about land contracts and things like that, none of that will happen. So they're only strictly for renters, and specifically they act as a mediator between the landlord and the tenant.
Okay. Properties. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then I agree to that with an extent, not necessarily a mediator, but they act as what's called they subsidize the rent. Okay. Just like say food stamps, you get subsidized with food stamps based on your income. Okay. Based on what you think you can afford and things like that. The more you make, the less money you get. And then all of a sudden you make too much money and you just don't qualify. So,
do students qualify for a Section 8? Because hey, I'm in school, I don't have time to work a lot. I have a part-time job.
So they can, but I think they go by the same rule as like FAFSA does, where if you're under the age of 24 and your parents are still taking care of you, I guess, they can count, they have to count the parents' income. You see what I'm saying? So that's how, So I think
that age limit is 24.
Well, at least for FAFSA, for like student aid. So now for Section 8, I don't know the limits on that. And if your parents are low income, then that doesn't matter. So, but that is definitely a question for like Section 8 themselves. So as a landlord, you shouldn't need to care about any of that. As a landlord, all you care about is the voucher and are they going to pay their bills on time? Are they going to keep the house clean? Are they going to do all this? So you look at the references, you look at they're going to have bad credit no matter what. But how, in the last 6 months, are they at least paying all their other bills? If they're constantly just like 30 days late or something, but they're still paying the bills, that's fine. Things like that. So let's see. Anik was saying that I had a tenant who lost their Section 8 voucher 3 months into the lease because she lied about her income on Section 8 application. So, sucks.
So what does the landlord do in that situation?
So they still signed a lease. They're still responsible for that. So,
Wow.
either they got to pay up, or you have to go through the eviction process.
Okay.
So, Anik, what did you do? Let me know in the comments what you did for that tenant. Did you have to evict them, or did they ended up ponying up the actual money for the rent? So, but yeah, so it's crazy, having friends like these guys in the chat. They have experience. So, and that's the thing. It's eviction. He came back, said eviction. So, yeah, 3 months.
It's double-edged sword a little bit. It helps.
3 months for them to figure out she lied. It was crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. So Randy,
and every city's different. Every city's different on evictions too. So what do you think, if there is an advantage to using Section 8? Do you think you can get higher, lease rates? Since somebody else is paying part of it, or why go through that trouble? Yeah, no problem. So you can get higher rents with Section 8 because it's based off of the average area. It's based off the area. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, the good thing is that they're going to be the highest rents that you can get. Like, for instance, you can get a 3-bedroom, in Detroit, they care about whether it's brick or frame houses, but outside Detroit, they don't. Okay. The rents are the same. So it just depends on, like, 3-bedroom. You're probably going to get like $1,500 a month, 15 to 18, depending on the area. So, the more north you are, the better you can become. So,
do you think it's what they're based on, like, square footage of home or number of bedrooms, or
it's number of bedrooms and a little bit with the square footage, but mainly the number of bedrooms.
So if you got one big bedroom and you're modifying the house, you make the one big bedroom into 2 small ones.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, yes and no. They still got to be pretty decent. So, and they still got to remember, you got to pass city inspection. You got to pass Section 8 inspection. They have rules on what is a bedroom. Okay. And how big a bedroom should be. So, Anik was saying it all depends on where the house is. I wouldn't get higher rent for a property with Section 8. So I strictly work with cash tenants. So, like, for instance, in Detroit, you're probably going to get higher rents. In the suburbs, you might not. Mm-hmm. You might get higher rents with a cash tenant. So it really just depends on the area. So, also landlords get the tenants who will not destroy the property when it's from the department. Yeah, I agree with that, Michael. So the thing is that you have, like I said, you have to screen the tenants money, and you can screen the tenants all you want, but guess what? People lie. People lie, and you have to come up with your own ways to figure out how to get that. And sometimes that's the reason why I don't want to say I push it off to a property manager, but that's essentially what I'm going to be saying I'm doing. I want to put that on them, but then I want to oversee what they're doing to make sure that they're doing it right. What I mean by that is in the beginning, I'm going to make sure that they are doing what they said they're going to do, and things are going through properly. Basically, I'm going to be watching them like a hawk until they gain my trust. That's just how it goes. So just like doing business with anywhere, just like doing business with anybody.
So getting back to, is there an advantage to doing a Section 8 as opposed to just a cash tenant?
Depends on the top of your head. Depends on the area, because the thing is that, like, for instance, if you go inside Detroit proper, I would probably do a Section 8 because they don't want to lose that Section 8 voucher by getting evicted. Now, you go in the suburbs, depending on where you are in the suburbs, it might be advantageous not to do a Section 8.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, you wouldn't want to do a Section 8 like in Clarkston, better
Correct.
schools, higher income, but maybe Pontiac or some Waterford areas, you might be inclined to do a Section 8 or accept a Section 8 tenant.
Exactly. Pontiac is a great example because Pontiac is just like Detroit.
Okay. And I guess it wouldn't matter if it's a home or if it's a condo or if it's an apartment building or Section 8 is just up for anything.
Yeah, so it just has to be a dwelling that you own. Like you can't rent a place and trying to sublet it to a tenant. You have to be the owner. Okay. Now I'm not sure what the rules are on condos. You have to look at when you do condos, HOAs have their own rules too. You have to follow.
I gotcha.
So you got to keep that in mind. Okay.
Yeah. So you have to be very trusting of the prospective tenant to really be able to sleep at night for the first 6 months anyway, to see if it's going to go well.
Exactly. And that's where the vetting process comes in. Okay. So that's where the vetting process comes in order to do that. So on something like that, is there like an idea that you had? Are you thinking about wanting to get a few Section 8 or get a few houses and rent them out to Section 8, like, or anything like that?
Well, I was considering, using some free cash to get a place. And then I have a friend who is a single parent, 2 kids, kind of low income, is just, struggling finding an apartment and stuff like that.
Got it.
Wouldn't it be great to help that parent out by just like, okay, here, I know you a little bit, and maybe, after you get on your feet, you do like a land contract and then you have a place of your own for you and your kids.
Yep.
So that was kind of the impetus to my thoughts about Section 8, help them get a running start, which this program sounds it does for low income people.
Right. And they just have to qualify, and you know how government processes are. They don't happen fast. So unfortunately.
Yeah. How long does it take? Does anyone anyone in your chat know how long it normally takes to get approved for Section 8?
That I'm not sure of. If anybody in the chat wants to answer that question, that'd be great, because I'm not familiar with how long it takes for a tenant to get.
Yeah, they probably never try to get one themselves since they're the renters, but
okay. So Anik was saying he has a duplex for sale in South Warren. Yeah. If anyone is interested, it's perfect for Section 8. Anik, send me the details. We'll see what we can do. If it's priced right, we'll see what we can do. All right. So send me the details, Anik. You got my number. All right. And he's also saying 2 to 4 weeks.
Oh, okay. That's not too bad.
So,
and it's done through the county, right?
It's done through the state.
Oh, it's done through the state. Okay.
But
so
each county will run their own, like, for instance, they have their own offices in each county. That's what I'm getting at. Okay. Like, someplace in Roseville, they're not going to have a Section 8 from Detroit. They're going to get paid out of Macomb County, wherever that is, wherever their office is. I'm not too familiar exactly, but I know that does matter as well. So,
okay.
Yeah. So like a duplex is actually really good because you can have, that's double the rent right there. So now it might be a 2-bedroom, but now you're getting double the rent versus a 3-bedroom is just a little bit more, so that's good. And if Anik is saying it's perfect for Section 8, hey, it might be in great condition. So, and and that's in South Warren. So, you know,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Is senior citizens available to get Section 8s too? I would imagine.
As long as they can meet the income requirements. That's the thing.
So it's all about income, not anything else.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's a federally run program. It's all about income. So that's all they care about. So a little bit about the age, because they want to make sure you're not living off your parents or anything like that, and you're trying to claim Section 8, you know, things like that. But yeah.
Okay.
So like my mom would not be able to qualify, even though she is she's on disability, because she owns a house. Because she owns a house, there's no way for her to be able to get Section 8.
Okay.
So you can't sit there and get Section 8 when you already own a property or something like that.
Okay. Okay.
But
okay.
Yeah. So with that, what I have, I do, if you want to do anything as far as looking for a property or anything like that, you know, I would be interested, like I'd be interested in working with you, where if you come in with the finances, I'll run the whole project and I'll set up all the systems and do everything, you know, for like a percentage of the deal, you know what I mean? So things like that. So we'd be partners if that's something you're interested in. I've been working with that with a lot of other buyers. So I just started putting that out to people. And it's okay if they don't want to. That's perfectly right. Go deal by deal, you know? So, so Tara Lynn was saying, like many government help, these programs are not necessarily designed to give people a hand up, probably a handout. Going into rentals with the idea of helping people can be extremely risky. I found it's best to run your business as a business and be selective when helping. Make sure real help is truly being given. So I 100% agree with that. Just because you want to help somebody, you still have to run the numbers and make sure it's profitable. Okay. If you can afford to break even and just take the tax write-off, that's perfectly fine too. That's a decision that you make, but keep in mind, it's still a business. Okay. So, you know, she said, no, hand up, as in helping them get help to move up in society financially. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Mr. R, which I wish you changed your name to what your name is, but all right. What if a parent passes down the property they own to their adult children? Will they be eligible for Section 8 afterwards if their income is in the range? Probably. I'm not going to say guaranteed not, but if the property is in your name, I'm probably going to say no, because that means you have a place to live. Okay. So I'm probably going to say no to that, but I'm not a four-mount expert on Section 8. So that is something you can ask, you know, the Section 8 office about. So, yeah. So with that, you know, we're kind of coming up to time here, but, you know, I at least wanted to give you that option that if you do want to get into your first rental, I'm here for you no matter what. If you do want to go into business, like you put up the funds and, you know, I'll walk you through the whole process and everything. And we can kind of go through there, and, you know, I'll even do the work myself. So, or at least do everything myself here. So, all right. Yeah, cool. So with that, now this part here, anybody out there, if you have any deals that you want to either JV with or or anything like that. I have buyers that are constantly looking for fix and flips, buy and holds, all over Metro Detroit, as well as I do have some in Genesee County and in Washtenaw County as well. So anybody that has any deals, please send them my way. I'd be happy to JV with them. I also have a few other investors that are looking for fix and flips that have funds that I'm going to be partnering up with as well. So not only would I be a JV, but I would also, work with the buyer on the fix and flip itself and run the project. So with that, we also do have a deal calculator on our website, randystedwell.com, under digital downloads. You can run all the numbers. I'm actually going to be revamping that into 1.1 version, but anybody who does buy it, I will email them a copy of the new version that does come out. So don't wait. If you use the code 50 off, it'll get you 50% off of the current price, which is, it's only $20 and it's like a Excel spreadsheet. So, but you'll get 50% off. It makes it only $10. So, go from there. With that, Ron, stay here for a minute and we'll talk right after. And then for everybody out there, anybody looking for any deals, please give me a call. My number's right here at the bottom. Shoot me an email at randybuyshousesmi@gmail.com. Again, randybuyshousesmi@gmail.com. And we'll go from there. Have a great day. Have a great week. And with that, we are out and see you in the next video.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room.